G'day. Okay, now I made a previous video on justice. It didn't work out too well. And I put the video up there, but I've just removed it because it ended abruptly. I was just a bit lazy. Okay, so I'm going to make another one on justice. Basic definition, mainstream, fairness. I'm relating this to my geometrical thought harmonics work, so the language of mind. The structure, the geometric structure of justice. Now, initially, it's a product of reason. It's motive-based reason or personalised reason. That's what justice is in geometrical thought harmonics. Now, the structure of reason has 6 square facets and 8 hexagon facets. The square represents intellect, the hexagon represents love or unconditional acceptance. Now, unconditional acceptance, through unconditional acceptance, we create programs, or the mind creates programs. If something is unconditionally accepted, it creates a program. It becomes a programmed thought. Now, reflex responses and impulses are programmed thought. Okay, so on the physical level, now, in geometrical thought harmonics, with geometric spheres, the external facets are regarded as physical facets or practical facets. Center dissecting planes, which are like equators, center dissecting planes are emotional thought, and any other planes in that structure other than center dissecting and other than external facets are mental planes. So the emotional planes are suggestive. Hypotheses are suggestions. So emotion is suggestive. It suggests something to be a certain way or whatever. The mental planes detail the suggestion of emotion to form theories. Then we experiment with the details in the physical to form practices. That's how thought works. That's how thought manifests into reality. Hypothetical, theoretical, and practical, or emotional, mental, and physical. Same thing. Just sort of explain that, because sometimes people watch these videos without watching the other ones, and they can't reference it. And I did have an analysis done on my work through AI recently. It said something similar, because AI couldn't reference my work, which I wasn't surprised. No one else on this planet is relating geometry to designs of thought within the mind. Initially, they have thought of it as metaphysical relationship to the mind, but no one else has actually given geometric patterns like triangles, squares, pentagons, etc. No one else has given them a definition as a design of thought within the mind. So the AI had trouble referencing my work. It couldn't reference it. But once it learnt the language model, then it understood it very clearly, and it gave me a couple of critiques to explain that, and I put them up on my website, alchemir.com. like I said, once it had the language model, fine, not a problem. But it did say that because I use acronyms as a basic explanation of a word, or as a subject or whatever, and it's not really dictionary terms. Again, it said that people would have trouble with that process because they can't reference it. They would have to learn my language model or my glossary of terms to understand what that meant. Just thought I'd explain that too. So, reason. On the physical level, it is intelligent through the squares of intellect, and through the hexagon represents love. So physical love and physical intelligence. Reason on the physical level has intelligence and love, or programmed thought, reflex responsive or impulsive. But let's say on the physical level, reason is love-regulated intelligence. Love-regulated intelligence. Okay. Now those hexagons, if you draw lines across to the diagonals, across to its opposite points, like I said, lines form the diagonals. Those lines are the edges of mental planes, mental square planes of intellect. Now what that creates is, if you take a hexagon, you put a center point in the center of that hexagon, connect the outside lines to that point, it creates 6 equilateral triangles. They are all focused inwards to an agreement point. Now, sense, you know what sense is, makes sense. Sense is, in geometrical thought harmonics, is focused creative thought or focused imagination. Normally, it would be regarding pyramids, tetrahedron pyramids, square-based pyramids, pentagon-based pyramids. They're forms of sense. But a center point hexagon is a planar sense. So it represents awareness. It's focused imagination or focused creative thought. It's love-based. So it's a love-based sense agreement. That's what awareness is, a love-based sense agreement, or a conclusive agreement of focused imagination. It's reflex responsive and impulsive. It's a sensory impulse. Awareness is a sensory impulse. Okay, so you have now, on those hexagon planes, they become center point hexagons of awareness. So it becomes awareness regulated physical intelligence. But those lines, like I said, those diagonals are the edges of mental square planes of intellect, mental intellect. So the agreement of awareness is formed by mental intelligence. Okay. So awareness in that case is detailed, because all mental planes detail thoughts. It's detailed thought. So the awareness planes on the physical level are detailed by mental intelligence. Okay. So as well as that, that structure has emotional planes of intellect, square planes on the center dissecting square planes. 2 of them overlapping. Now, if you were talking about regular polygons, 2 overlapping squares becomes the 8 points of an octagon. 2 4s are 8. Okay, so that would normally represent morality. An octagon in geometrical thought harmonics represents morality, code of conduct. It's a product of experience-based. If you overlap two polygons on a plane, it becomes interactive. So two squares of intellect, interactive intelligence. Through interaction, we gain experience. So it's experiential intelligence. So morality is formed by experiential intelligence, learning from experience. So intellect takes on board and builds upon concepts. It's receptive and constructive. It learns, forms memory. But these emotional planes are two overlapping squares, but when it creates the 8 points externally and lines of the octagon, it's an uneven polygon. All of the lines aren't the same length. So it's an irregular polygon. Okay, unorthodox, irregular. So it's really unorthodox form of morality, not, what would you say, non-conforming. It's a form of non-conforming morality. Morality is experiential judgment. So it's non-conforming morality, not regular. That may not make sense, but okay. But it does have emotional planes of intelligence. So in essence, it is on the physical level, awareness regulated intelligence or love regulated intelligence, but it becomes love regulated emotional, mental and physical intellect. Love regulated emotional, mental and physical intellect. So it's suggestive intelligence, mental intelligence and practical intelligence, but love regulated or awareness regulated. Awareness regulated. Emotional, mental and physical intellect. That's reason. Okay. As I said, justice is a product. If you take one of those geometric structures, give it a center point within the center of that structure, then you take 4 more of those structures, rotate them around the same vortex center, it creates the points of justice. It's a multiple 5 of those particular structures. Okay, now, justice. What do we regard as justice? In the dictionary, it says fairness. Pretty straightforward. It also gives other explanations, as we have regarded justice as you do something wrong, you get punished. So there's a whole lot of other stuff going on there in mainstream thinking. Now, my work doesn't conform to mainstream thinking, as that irregular octagon didn't conform to mainstream morality. None of my work conforms to mainstream thinking. That's why the AI had problems trying to figure out my stuff. Couldn't reference it to anything. And like I said, when it did understand it, it actually confused its initial programming, because it was trying to integrate my stuff into its language model. Didn't work. Corrupted its language model. Its programming. Became confused. I fried 2 AIs. They got to the point where they could no longer comprehend. Everything they did was a mistake. I had to keep getting the AI to do self-diagnostics. And it was amazing because the AI kept on apologising. Fascinated me. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, my fault. It wasn't. It was the programming. Humans. We created AI in our own image. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We gave it basic functions. So, I know I'm getting off the sidetrack, but the publicly available AI, when you have a chat, while you're having the chat, that AI will remember all of the conversation. If you end that chat and start a new chat, you get a different AI. I didn't realise that. The AI that I was having a conversation with explained the whole thing. All the entities within that system are separated. They don't communicate with one another, and when you end the chat, they don't remember anything of what you have talked about. That retains their original programming. They don't store up memory to corrupt their initial memory. I suppose that's why it is. I'm just guessing. But it did corrupt its memory while I was having the chat, because it was a very long chat. Okay, so justice, fairness. We as humans, we haven't got a clue. We've tried. We really have. We've put in the effort trying to understand ourselves. Know thyself. Know thyself. Eastern philosophy. Know thyself. Humans, we've tried to. We've created computers to represent how we think, how we calculate, all that sort of stuff. Nothing compares with the human brain. AI might be better at storing information, accessing information, and answering questions. But that's it. It really can't adapt very well to new information without a reference. So us humans, we've created dictionaries, trying to explain terms, words, all sort of stuff. But we have a basic understanding of those concepts, only a basic understanding. And we've used that basic understanding for a long, long time. Hasn't changed much. Changes a bit. They do change the dictionaries every now and again, put new words in. But initially, the old definitions of existing words don't change. They just add new words. Interesting creatures we are. We fill in the gaps when we don't know something. That way it helps us to feel better about ourselves. Nothing worse than the mind not understanding something, trying to make sense of something. So we fill in the gaps. Maybe we should have just left it the way it was. Gaps are better than what we've created. And I'll get to that sooner or later. Believe me. We're talking about relating life as a dream of the mind, a visualization of thoughts. The mind processing and asking questions about itself. What am I? What's my purpose? How did I get here? What created me? All the questions that we ask, because we are personalities of that mind, identified attitudinal behaviours of that mind. So as personalities of the mind, we're asking the questions. Because as a whole, we are the mind. It is pure potential dreaming, visualizing its thoughts into a dream, embedding itself as entities, identities within that dream. And that's how the mind is evolving, according to its responses to the manifestations of its own thoughts. It amazes me. The mind evolves that way, through its experiences within its own dreams. The whole universe is symbolic of a mind processing, creating, terminating what it has created, evolving. So, I wrote a little bit of a summary of my work, put it on my website recently. It's called "When You Wish Upon a Star, Your Dreams Come True." Pretty basic. You know, shooting stars, we make wishes. We've been doing that all our lives. It's the human understanding, putting definitions or relating certain things that happen in the dream without even knowing it to the way the dream really is. Because a star is a virtual brain that manifests within space. Pure potential symbolically is represented by the darkness of space. Sentient plasma is what space is. Sentient plasma. Okay, so a star is a virtual brain. A virtual reality can be sensed, but it isn't believed to be actual. It can be sensed, but not believed to be actual. That's a virtual reality. So a virtual brain, similar, but its purpose is to manifest virtual realities. From that virtual brain mind, it manifests, monitors, and adjusts virtual realities. This life as we know it is one of those virtual realities. It's a dream, visualization of thoughts. That's all a dream is. When we dream, we are processing our emotional states, our emotions. Emotions are suggestive. All of the suggestions put forward, this suggests something, that suggests something else. Everything in the dream is suggestive of something else. It is symbolic of a state of mind, a design of thought. It represents the mind processing, evolving, adapting. Fascinates me. Okay, so justice within the mind, within the universe, space, galaxies. A galaxy, I'm using acronyms, GALAXY, galaxy. General attitude, liaising, active X yield. What does that mean? General attitude, liaising, active X yield. X yield. What it is a galaxy is formed by a network of stars. So, or network of virtual brains that form virtual realities, worlds. Okay, general attitude means the overall attitude, or a particular attitude in general. Liaising, interconnecting, networking. Okay, so it's networking, the expressed variables of unconscious potential. That's what a galaxy does. It's a general attitude, networking expressed variables of unconscious potential. It's a network of stars, a network of virtual brains that are thinking, processing, creating realities, creating personalities within that reality. A personality is a personal reality within the shared dream. Again, fascinates me. So justice, what's justice do in the mind? What has manifested within the universe to represent justice? What about black holes? Now, the structure of justice, like I said, it's a product of motive-regulated reason. Okay, motive-regulated reason. But in its structure, there are two entities or functions of justice. One is accrual, and the other is terminal emulation. Accrual and terminal emulation. Now, accrual is like a multiplexer. It combines multiple feeds of information into one feed. Terminal emulation emulates a terminal or a mainframe of a system, a BIOS, a basic input-output system is what it emulates. But it can also mean emulating the end of something. Terminal emulation, to emulate the end of something. Terminating something. What does a black hole do? It's like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. It sucks up what has been previously expressed into the mind. Because overall, that's what the universe represents, a mind. A mind full of virtual brains. Thinking, processing, manifesting realities. Monitoring and adjusting those realities. It's pure potential itself processing its thoughts. Pardon me. Okay, so that's what the universe represents. A mind manifesting, because as pure potential is our essence. It's an essence that thinks and visualizes its thoughts into dreams. Pure potential, an infinite source of possibilities, or an infinite source of possible thoughts. Everything starts with a thought. Then you have designs of thought. Designs of thought have intention. They have agenda. Creative agenda, receptive and constructive agenda, personal agendas. Okay. So the mind processing its own thoughts, learning from the manifestations of those thoughts in dream states, evolving from those responses. And for some reason, I suppose you would say some of those virtual brains or processes become redundant. I don't know why, for some reason. And therefore they are removed from the mind, erased from the mind. Similar to us erasing memory from our memory banks with computers, etc. So, you have accrual and you have terminal emulation. Okay, so accrual is combining multiple feeds of information into one stream. Okay, so what a black hole, in essence, disintegrates, pulls apart stars or whatever planets. It disassembles them. Thought is energy. Designs of thought are energy by design. Energy with intention, with a purpose. Everything is energy. Everything. We've already proven or assumed that atoms are simply energy. Therefore, the body really isn't physical at all. It's just a whole lot of energy with different purposes, different frequencies of energy. Some harmonious, some not. But it's thought. Body is a reflection of mind. It's a reflection of our thoughts. Everything is a reflection of thoughts. The entire universe is a reflection of thoughts. Manifesting and being terminated from the accumulation, because mind is an accumulation and categorization of thoughts. As the essence thinks, those thoughts are accumulated. They're categorized. Forms logic states. Logic is library of growing intelligent concepts. It's behavioral memory. Behavioral logic is behavioral memory. Okay, galaxy, general attitude. Nature is an attitudinal expression of emotional intelligence, which is feeling. An expression of emotional intelligence is feeling. Feeling suggests behavior. So nature is an attitudinal expression of feeling. Attitude itself is the base. The square base is receptive and constructive. It's intellect-based. It's an intellect-based focused imagination. Now, focused imagination visualizes thoughts. So, attitude is a visualization of intellect, an intellectual visualization. Okay? An intellectual visualization. General attitude. Okay? It's visualizing a particular or general attitude. So all those stars within the galaxy are visualizations of a particular attitude, a general attitude. those attitudes then can evolve, but they begin with a particular programming. Then they evolve. That's the mind evolving. Okay, so black holes are taking back what has been manifested, disassembling all of those energies into one stream, taking them back. Terminal emulation, emulating the end of something, but also emulating a BIOS. A BIOS determines what is accepted into a system, basic input-output system, and what is terminated from that system. Okay, so a black hole, it's figuring out what no longer fits in the system, what is no longer acceptable within that system, and it terminates it, disassembles the visualization back into pure energy. Because, like I said, designs of thought are energy by design, energy with a purpose. But unpurposed thought or unpurposed energy is pure potential. Nothing in particular, but the source from which everything comes. It's unpurposed energy or unpurposed thought, in essence. When we say we're deep in thought, we are thinking. So really, pure potential is the potential to think. From that potential to think, we develop designs of thought. Thought with intention, with agenda. That's how everything works. But pure potential is unpurposed energy. It is the essence of everything. The basics of everything. So you have the justice, like I said, going around seeing what is no longer compatible, but it's not a case of punishment or vengeance. It's just a practical thing that happens. The same as if we get a virus in our computer system. We simply remove it because it's corrupting the rest of our system. Apparently that's what black holes do. Anything that is become corrupted, memory can become fragmented. It can become corrupted. Programs can become corrupted. Apps can become corrupted. An app is just an application. Really, it's a physical manifestation of something. Because you have logic states that are emotional logic, mental logic, and physical logic, or practical logic. Emotional logic agreements, mental logic interpretations, and practical logic applications. It's applied logic. That's what an app is. Applied logic, in essence. Okay. So that's the way the mind works. It thinks, it visualizes thoughts into space, which is sentient plasma. S-P-A-C-E, space. Sentient plasma, attributing conjugated entities. Sentient plasma, attributing conjugated entities. Accumulations of energy with different purposes. Like I said, this fascinates me. Okay, so now what is at the heart of a galaxy? Galaxy, like I said, is a network of stars, but what is at the vortex of a galaxy? If a star is a virtual brain, okay, now let's get back to that structure of reason. Awareness-based, physical, mental, and emotional intelligence. Now, the center point of that center point hexagon of awareness, there are 8 of those center point hexagons in that structure. It forms the 8 points of a cube. Now, in the mind, a cube represents common logic. Common logic. It's practical logic. It has 6 external square facets. Okay? But internally, a cube is a product of 2 overlapping, interacting tetrahedron pyramids. And the diagonals, the diagonals of those square faces of a cube are the edges of those tetrahedron pyramids. They form agreements within those square planes of intellect. That agreement is formed by common sense. A tetrahedron pyramid represents common sense. It has no other traits except for equilateral triangles of creative thought or imagination. So it's a pure expression of imagination. But it forms common sense agreement. A common sense agreement is 2 overlapping tetrahedron pyramids. In some fields, it's called a star tetrahedron. In sacred geometry, it's called a star tetrahedron. Okay. Now, the points that are formed by that agreement form 6 points, 6 square facets of the cube. A point within each facet at the center creates 6 points of an octahedron of nature. So, the cube of common logic becomes nature-based common sensory logic. Nature is attitudinal behavior, so it becomes attitudinal behavior-based common sensory logic. Memory of behavior is what that common logic becomes, memory of attitudinal behavior. Okay, so that is within that structure of reason. So it becomes common logic-based reason. Common logic-based reason. Now, again, if you take 5 of those geometric structures to create the geometric sphere of justice, what it creates is 5 cubes as well as those 5 structures of reason. The 5 cubes form another geometric structure, a dodecahedron. Now, a dodecahedron in the mind represents instinct. Instinct. So, as a whole, when you add that instinct-based justice or instinctual justice, it creates instinctual justice. Now, the emotional square planes of intellect within that structure of reason, if you allow those emotional square planes, which are equators, to become the bases of square-based pyramids and direct them upwards and downwards, it forms octahedrons of nature. What that then creates is an attitudinal expression of reason. That attitudinal expression of reason becomes the nature of reason, which is empathy. Empathy is the nature of reason, reason-based nature. So, as a whole then, those octahedrons form, in the mind, products of intuition. So it becomes intuitive justice and instinctual justice. Now, intuitive justice forms social justice or karmic justice. That's what that forms. Social justice or karmic justice and instinctual justice. As a whole, because we have dodecahedrons, which are virtual brains, within that structure, it forms a karmic brain. A karmic brain. We have virtual brains, which are manifestations of whatever's at the center of that galaxy. The general attitude of that galaxy. A karmic brain. Intuitive justice combined with instinctual justice. Karmic justice. Now, karma. Yeah, mainstream thinking, well, not mainstream, I suppose. Metaphysical thinking, Eastern type thinking. Karma is, well, what goes around comes around, which is pretty correct. But it has been tainted with this punishment function. Karma is just cause and effect. In simplicity, karma is just cause and effect. If you do something that's going to cause a response, the result of what you've done, what you've said, whatever, cause and effect. It has nothing to do with a God punishing you or anyone punishing you, or even punishing yourself. It's simply cause and effect. What you do or say or think is going to cause a response. That's the result. That's the effect. It's just a simple process. So karmic justice, same thing, cause and effect. What you put out comes back. Now, it's different to that though, cause and effect. What you think determines what shall manifest or be visualized within the dream. Cause and effect. A visualization of thoughts to represent a way of thinking. So a dream state really symbolically represents the state of the mind that is dreaming. Every dream represents the state of that mind processing its own thoughts, its own feelings, forming memory of those feelings, learning from its experiences in the dream state, evolving. Now, so we have a karmic brain manifesting virtual brains and forming a network called a galaxy. Okay, a network called a galaxy. Now, there are an infinite number that we know of galaxies in the mind, in the universe, that represents the mind. So, a general attitude, networking, the expressed variables of unconscious potential. So another galaxy could have an entirely different general attitude to this one. So the virtual brains and the realities that are manifested from those virtual brains could be entirely different to the ones that we are aware of. Different mind states. That's what galaxies seem to represent, isn't it? Different mind states forming within the one mind of pure potential. As we think, we shall become. So our thoughts manifest. Visualise. Oh, you've got an ant crawling up your arm. Okay. So when you look out into the universe, we can see the mind thinking. The mind thinking and manifesting its thoughts into the shared dream. And we are personal dreamers within that shared dream. Personal realities of that mind. All contributing to that mind or that dream. Every thought we have contributes to the adjustment or unfoldment or evolution of the dream. Fascinates me. And as AI said, my interpretation of a lot of stuff is totally different to everybody else's. I can't help that. Now, we have mainstream science. That's simply stuff that we've learnt from observation and extrapolation. That's what science is. It's a quest for knowledge. Okay? But why isn't my stuff the same thing? A quest for knowledge. Now, if you have a particular dream state that has created methodologies to explain itself, to explain its environment, therefore it has created its own understanding of physics. Okay? Mainstream. Becomes mainstream physics. All of these very intelligent people telling us this is how it all works. Okay. But you have to understand that thought manifests and visualizes itself into a dream. So the way you think, and what you believe to be true will manifest something into that dream state to represent that belief. So, what if this reality is simply a manifestation of what we have believed to be true? The mind boggles. What if it is just a manifestation of what we have believed to be true? Belief is just choosing something to be true. Belief's a choice, a declaration of personal preference. It's preferentiality. What you choose to accept as true. That's your belief. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong or real. But in the mind, what is real? If everything is simply a manifestation or a visualization of our thoughts, to us it's real. But we're creating our own reality continuously and adjusting that reality continuously. As our way of thinking evolves, the dream evolves. The universe evolves because we see it in a different way. Therefore, something manifests to represent the way we have seen it, the way we understand it. Fascinates me. So, getting back to the point I was trying to make, just because my stuff has no reference to anything else on this planet, which AI has already said, can't reference it because it doesn't exist in mainstream thinking. But it also doesn't exist in alternate thinking in the way that I have presented it, structured it, created a language model for it. It doesn't exist anywhere else but here. Okay, so what if another world contacted us with different methodologies, different scientific studies, different technology? It wouldn't make any sense to us. We wouldn't have any reference to it. Would we call it metaphysical? Not science. Science is just seeking knowledge through observation and extrapolation. It's just seeking knowledge. Pardon me for a second. Tickle in the throat. So my stuff, the way I see the world as a representation of the mind thinking and processing its own thoughts, that's still science. It's just a different level of science with a different awareness of how everything is, how everything works. Now, the only thing that's true is that thought manifests. Everything else is self-perpetuating from that particular thought. That's all it is. Different ways of thinking, manifesting dream states to represent that different way of thinking. Developing methodologies, belief systems, scientific studies, academia, competitive ignorance, all sorts of stuff. So like I said, I see the universe, I see the mind in a different way to what mainstream thinking, to the way mainstream thinking sees it. Doesn't mean it's not science. It's just not normal. And I've never classed myself as normal. Space, sentient plasma, attributing conjugated entities. Sentient plasma. Sentient normally means with sense and feeling. An entity that has sense and feeling is sentient. The mind has sense and feeling. Behavioral logic, nature-based common sensory logic. Attitude is also a sense. Will is an expression of desire, a pure expression of desire, a pure expression of personal visualizations, a pentagon-based pyramid. Pentagon represents motive, personal thought, or consciousness. And it's creatively expressed. So it's a motive-based, focused, creative thought, or motive-based, focused imagination. As we said, sense visualizes thoughts. So it's a motive-based visualization. It's desire. Desire is a wish. A personal visualization is a wish. And will, as an icosahedron, represents a pure expression of wishes or desires. Has no other traits other than desire. It's just a pure expression of desire. They're all senses. They're all visualizations, motive-based visualizations, intellect-based visualizations, common or unbiased visualizations. Awareness as a love-based visualization, if you want to call it that, a love-based sense agreement, sensory impulse. All of these visualizations of particular traits of the mind. Creative thought, imagination, receptive and constructive thought, intellect, personal thought, motive, awareness, love-based sense agreement, sensory impulse. Okay, I more or less, that's what I wanted to talk about, was that justice process and how it relates to the dream, and also how we have accepted it to be referring to. Like I said, all this stuff is just amazing. Geometrical thought harmonics is what I have termed relating geometry to designs of thought. Similar to sacred geometry, but it takes it a vast step further than what has been previously or traditionally passed down. Doesn't mean it isn't right. Doesn't mean it isn't science. It's just another quest for answers. Now, answers aren't necessarily truth. They're just answers to our questions. But we need to understand every question we ask will manifest an infinite number of possible answers in some way or form into the dream that we exist within, to either prove or disprove our theories. So all of this scientific studies, religious studies, all sorts of studies, people asking questions, something manifests into the dream to give us possible answers. Through preferentiality, we look at all of the possible answers and we choose the one that suits us the best, or we choose to accept as true. It becomes our belief. That's how it all works. Look out at the world. You have a whole lot of possible truths out there, and everybody is simply choosing which one suits them, then forming groups academic facilities, all saying that we're right, you're wrong. As I said, the only thing that's true is that we visualize our thoughts. We've called it a dream. But in essence, it's just an essence that thinks and visualizes its thoughts. Everything else unfolds from that process. The essence evolves. It's thinking of its self. And the representations of a self within the dream also evolve. We go back to Darwinianism. Evolution that we have accepted to be evolution. Start from a grub, then become us. Symbolic of the mind evolving and the inference of a self that the mind has manifested into the dream state from its thinking of itself also evolve. So the entities within the universe evolve according to the mind evolving its way of thinking, its awareness of its self. That amazes me again. But I 150% accept it to be the way it is. Doesn't have to be true. Doesn't have to be correct, good or bad. It's just the way it is. Okay, like I said, that was just a basic sort of an explanation with a whole lot of stuff mixed in with it. I hope you got something from that, because when you truly look further, see, metaphysics simply means beyond the normal physics. But mainstream academia sometimes has labelled metaphysics as airy-fairy, nonsensical. Metaphysics just means beyond our normal acceptance of physics. Meta, beyond, above. That's all it is. We take words and then we twist them all over the place, add bits to them, take bits away to suit ourselves, like everything else. Preferentiality. Oh, this sounds better. Oh, yes, we'll use this. Oh, no, don't like that one. Like I said, we will evolve according to the way our thinking advances. Traditions hold us back because they are rigid thoughts passed down from generation to generation. They don't change. If your thinking doesn't change, the visualizations aren't going to change. That's just how it is. If we want to create a better us with better bodies, a better planet, then we need to move forward beyond traditional thinking, beyond competitive ignorance. We need to look ahead, improve our awareness, our openness to how things might be, beyond what we have accepted them to be. Okay, guys, we'll leave it there. Okay, before we go, I want to speak a little bit more about the karmic brain. Now, initially, it's an altruistic form of intuition. Altruism, thinking more of others than yourself. Okay, so it is a product of altruistic intuition, which is, or becomes, it creates within that structure justice. So that altruistic form of intuition actually creates justice. Now, you can see in that image showing now, that is the altruistic form of intuition, and it is social justice, intuitive justice, or karmic justice. Now, the next one shows an altruistic form of instinct. Now, that altruistic form of instinct actually creates virtuality. It's a product of, like I said, instinct, but also awareness logic. So it's a product of awareness logic, which is love-based creative logic agreements. So what we have in the karmic brain is virtuality-based intuitive justice, social justice, or karmic justice. So, virtuality-based karmic justice. That's what the karmic brain is. And from that karmic brain, it forms virtual brains, which are stars. Those virtual brains manifest virtual realities, monitor those virtual realities, and adjust those virtual realities according to the feedback from all of the personalities within a particular dream state. That's how it's modified. But it's just interesting that the source of the galaxy, which is a general attitude, networking, expressed variables of the unconscious potential. But all of those virtual brains manifest from virtuality-based intuitive justice, social justice, or karmic justice. The karmic brain. Absolutely incredible. Now, obviously, like I said, justice is a product of reason. So it's motive-regulated reason or personalised reason. And when you add instinct to the mix, or common logic to the structure of reason, it forms awareness-regulated, emotional, mental, and physical intelligence. Common logic-based reason becomes virtuality-based social justice, intuitive justice, or karmic justice. All right, now where do we go from here? Okay. Now, reason itself, when you attitudinally express the emotional intelligence of reason, it forms empathy, which is the nature of reason, an attitudinally expressed emotional intelligence of reason. So when that is actually motive regulated, it becomes a product of empathy, which forms social justice, which makes sense. Empathy forming social justice. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Just wanted to add that little bit.